Welcome back to the Board CEO Partnership Series. I'm Marcia Beckner, founder of Culture Cares, and I'm so glad you're here. This is episode 5 in our 8-part series designed to strengthen one of the most important relationships in any nonprofit. Yes, the partnership between the board and the executive. Whether you're listening as a board chair, a board member, or a CEO, my hope is that these episodes become a practical resource, something you can use to onboard new members, facilitate an annual board retreat, get the companion guide that goes to this series in the show notes, and utilize these activities and exercises to help build a stronger culture internally. If you're just joining us, start with episode 1 of this series so you can experience it from the beginning. You'll find the full series start at culturecares.com/41. Today, we're talking about the E in the CARES framework, engagement. I want to dedicate a full episode to engagement because it comes up in almost every coaching conversation I have, whether I'm working with a first-time executive director or CEO of a large nonprofit or a small nonprofit. The conversation almost always turns to the board in some manner. I hear things like, I have 3 board members doing about 80% of the work. Or I might hear, everyone comes to meetings, but very few people actually raise their hands and participate. Or I might hear, our board cares deeply. I just can't seem to get people engaged. If any of this sounds familiar, just know you're not alone. This is a sector-wide issue. The question is always like, how can we get the board more engaged in a meaningful way? And so that's what we're going to talk about in this episode because I believe it comes down to one key ingredient, and that's connection. Most nonprofit boards learn about their fiduciary duties, their financial oversight, their strategic planning, and how to hire the CEO and manage the CEO, right? What's harder is the relational side of connection, building real engagement with strategic dialogue and building strong relationships with one another. I don't think the problem is that the boards don't care to get to know one another. I think we've been asking the wrong question. Most governance training teaches boards what to do. Very little teaches them how to build the relationships that make impact possible. And this is where engagement really begins. If there's one idea I hope you remember from today, it's this. The goal isn't to build a board that shows up. The goal is to build a board that shows up for each other. A board can have perfect attendance and still be disengaged. Everyone can read the packet, attend the meeting, vote on a motion, and still leave without feeling connected to one another or invested in the collective work of the board. Attendance is easy to measure. Engagement is harder. Engagement is measured by contribution, by curiosity, by whether people ask thoughtful questions, challenge assumptions respectfully, offer their expertise, make introductions, and build on each other's ideas. The lesson got really personal for me a few years ago when I had a board experience. I was invited to serve on the board of a nonprofit whose mission I really cared about. It was a virtual board because we were spread around the United States. Every meeting was on Zoom, so I never met anyone in person. I gave financially each year. I attended the Zoom meetings faithfully. I wanted the organization to succeed. From the outside, I probably looked like a pretty decent board member. But if I'm honest, I never felt internally connected to that board. Every meeting followed the same pattern. We'd log into Zoom, call to order, approve the agenda, hear the reports, vote, adjourn. It was efficient. The business got done, but something was missing. Looking around at all those little squares on my Zoom screen month after month, I realized I don't know any of these people serving alongside me. I know their names because I can read it on Zoom and their professions. I don't know why they chose this organization to volunteer to. I don't know their experiences that shaped their perspective or what they brought to the table beyond the bio I read in the binder they gave me when I joined. And I never took responsibility to pick up the phone and get to know others on an individual basis. And when I was the new person joining this board where others had served for years and already knew each other, no one called to welcome me, to ask who I was or what I cared about. I never thought, we'd have a great take on this because we'd never created the space to know one another beyond the agenda. The problem wasn't that people skipped meetings. The engagement problem was that we never became a team. And that experience changed how I think about board engagement entirely. So here's what I want you to take with you. From here on out, whenever you think you have a board engagement problem, you don't. You have a team connection and culture problem. Every board member arrives with a collection of experiences and relationships and talents. One understands finance, another understands law or marketing. Someone else has deep ties across this community you're serving or personal lived experience that gives the organization insight it can't get anywhere else. I think of those strengths like deposits into a bank account. Each has value on its own. Let's say those strengths are each in individual bank accounts. But the real return comes when these strengths compound into a combined bank account in this example. One person's question sparks another's idea. A board member makes an introduction, and then a coffee conversation becomes a major donor relationship. A discussion at the table with people you feel connected to produces a solution no single person would have found alone. And that's where extraordinary boards separate themselves from average ones. It's not because they recruited more accomplished people, because they intentionally connected the accomplished people they already had. And when we skip that step, we leave ideas on the table. We leave collaborations on the table. And ultimately, our mission impact is less than it could be. And also, it's worth saying that when I founded my own nonprofit, our first board was mostly family and close friends. We already trusted each other, so I never had to think intentionally about how to engage with this board because those relationships already existed. It wasn't until the board grew more professionally diverse that I realized trust and connection don't just carry over. They have to be built again on purpose every time. Connection doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. That's why I believe building board culture is one of the most important shared responsibilities of the board chair and the executive director together. They have such a high influence on how people feel welcomed into the board when they're new, how they're engaged throughout their board service, and also how they leave when their term ends. Culture is designed by the questions we ask, the conversations we encourage, the experiences we intentionally create. The same way we design a strategic planning session or fundraising campaign, we should design opportunities for board members to actually know, trust, and appreciate one another. Now, I'm not talking about long 30-minute icebreakers at every meeting. Board members are busy volunteers and their time is valuable. So I want to give you a couple of ideas to get started. The first is to start every meeting with at least 5 intentional minutes carved out for connection before you even open the agenda. Ask a different board member each month, what's one leadership lesson you learned recently? Or what first drew you to this organization? Or what's one strength you want to bring more intentionally this year? That could generate some really interesting connection conversations. If it's a Zoom meeting, you could ask the question in chat and have everybody answer, and then maybe a couple people articulate a little bit more what what brings them here, what strengths they want to bring. You could also, say, what is your family like? Are you married? Are you single? Do you have kids? Are you retired? Let people get to know each other personally because that will build trust, and trust builds engagement. Over a year, by adding this true connection time at the beginning of each meeting, and hopefully more, coffee conversations in between, but at the very least, at each meeting, it can really change how a board relates to one another. And people stop seeing titles, they start seeing people, and people move the needle in our business. And here's the second idea. Launch a board buddy program. Please pair every new board member with a seasoned one for their first 6 to 12 months. Someone who can decode the jargon that inevitably comes up in board meetings. Someone who a new board member can call afterwards or chat. Wait, what does that acronym mean? type questions. Help make a few introductions, get to know them personally, and translate the unwritten rules nobody bothers to put in the bylaws. It's really hard for new people to admit what they don't know in a group setting. They don't want to look stupid. So make sure there is a buddy to run all the questions to as they are onboarding and learning. And the buddy should not be the CEO or the executive director because they have an organization to run. The board should be accountable for mentoring their own new members. Remember this interesting dichotomy, right? Like the board is the boss of the CEO and executive director. I think we forget this sometimes. So it's weird if the CEO is like the buddy of their boss. This is why board members have to mentor each other. I don't think there's enough of this in our sector right now, the buddy system, like true intention for connection, because right now the status quo is that board engagement is less than it could be across all organizations. Most new board members out there get handed a 3-inch binder or a PDF with a cheerful, "Good luck out there." A binder has never once made a human being feel like they belong. Only a person can. It's funny, like you spend months recruiting a great board member. Don't let the relationship building stop the moment they say yes. That small investment is often the difference between someone who quietly disappears after year one versus someone who's still in the room and still showing up for their fellow board members years later. So here's a reflection question. For your next board meeting, or maybe just in the car ride home, if a new board member joined tomorrow, think about what intentional experiences would help them feel like they truly belong, not just to the organization, but to this team of board members. And when people know one another, they trust one another and they engage meaningfully with the group. Human connection is the foundation of board engagement. That's what I feel like we've been doing wrong. Figuring out what board engagement is, it is simply human connection. Because engagement alone isn't the finish line. It's the doorway to something more important. Because once a board member connects and engages, a deeper question follows. Do they feel safe enough to disagree with one another, to challenge an idea in the room and admit that they don't understand something? Or can they say, "I think we're about to make a big mistake," without fear of how it will land? That concept is called psychological safety, and it's the very important subject of our next episode. Decades of research prove psychological safety is the number one indicator of group performance, innovation, and inclusion. So join me for episode 6, where we'll explore what psychological safety actually looks like in the boardroom and how a board moves from an average group of people to a highly impactful team. Reminder, go download that free companion guide from the show notes so that you can follow through with how to engage your board in a deeper way. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Nonprofit CEO Spark. If you're ready to turn burnout into boundaries and build a healthy, happy culture where everyone, including you, can thrive, visit culturecares.com to learn how I support nonprofit organizations like yours. If this episode brought you value, share it with a fellow leader navigating stress and overwhelm. And remember, you are meant for great things, and you don't have to burn out to prove it. Until next time, keep leading with courage and confidence.